Okay, we are live here. This is going to be hopefully a weekly thing. William McDermott here, Jeff Lightsy joining me today. We're going to recap UVA and Louisville, the 3-point loss from yesterday. Also talk about some other things, Louisville athletics, and hopefully this is a weekly thing. We're still kind of ironing out the kinks with all of this, so. Again, like it might not be perfect this time around, so please bear with us, and it'll be also up for in the future and things like that as well as a podcast later on this week. So first things first, Jeff, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. Thanks for joining me, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Appreciate you having me on. Well, appreciate it, man.
Yeah, obviously exciting times for Louisville athletics. Obviously football season about midway through, basketball coming up, but obviously yesterday not exciting for Louisville, the 30-27 loss to Virginia. I think we should probably start where a lot of the talk has been, and that's with Miller Moss, right? I mean, you watch his past two games against power conference competition, and yesterday in particular against a Virginia defense that the secondary's not great. They turned the ball over a little bit, and obviously they did yesterday, and it mattered. But for the most part, and I don't really understand a whole lot of the, I guess, talk about bench Miller Moss, because he completed 34 passes, 330 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then of course, he had the rushing touchdown too. Got to throw that in there, but then of course the 1 interception. Right, and that's kind of it takes away from the entire.
There's a pick six, Will. There's a pick six. It wasn't just interception. It's a pick six. And all interceptions are not created equally. All of them are not created equally. And the one Miller threw, that was a Will Levis type of debacle. Yes. It was bad. It was bad. Yeah. Well, let's not sugarcoat. It was bad. It was bad.
And that's kind of what we've seen from him. It's like that roller coaster, right? The Miller Moss roller coaster. So he'll have these moments, and one moment in particular really brings this point home to me from yesterday, right? So I think they're driving down the field. They're down 3. They needed the field goal at the end of regulation to tie the game.
Yes.
And Moss, I think it was 2nd and long, and he just takes a bad sack.
Oh my God.
Inexcusable sack, right? Can't do it. Under a minute to go, or I think, a little over a minute to go, maybe 60, 70 seconds, and he just takes an inexcusable sack. The very next play, he probably has one of the best throws of the season.
Yes.
I think it was either Antonio Meeks or Chris Hughes that he found.
Chris Hughes.
Yeah.
On down the right hash.
Over the middle of the field, on the right hash, just a dot, right? An absolute dime. They're able to get in the field goal range, and they make the field goal. That's the good, right? The bad, taking the sack. The bad, trying to make a play. Mm-hmm. And I think we'll talk about it a little bit later on, but I think that's the biggest thing the past 2 weeks that has stood out to me is just it almost looks like things are moving a little bit too quickly for him out there, and he's trying to do a little bit too much. What were your thoughts on how he did yesterday, and going forward, what can we expect from Miller Moss out of this offense?
So I hate to say it, but this has been Miller his entire career. This was Miller at USC last year. This has been Miller so far at Louisville. It's a combination of things, and I don't want to put them all on him, but he's got to take the brunt of it because he is the quarterback. There's the combination of the offensive line is bad. We understand that because they're not being able to run the ball. We know that Duke Watson and Isaac Brown just didn't forget how to run the football, right? The line is bad, and they're not moving people, even though Isaac did average 5 yards a carry. But because the line is bad, Miller is getting pressured. And because Miller is getting pressured, he is uneasy. He's uncomfortable all the time. He's always uncomfortable. And because he's uncomfortable, he's forcing himself to try to do things even when things aren't there. And when him doing that, it causes the play calling to then be conservative. So it's all like a big circle. It's all working together in a negative perspective for Louisville in the offense because the defense is balling out. As bad as things seemed yesterday, in regulation, that defense only gave up 10 points. The problem is at the end of regulation, they had 24 points. It's well, if the defense only gave up 10 and they had 24 at the end of regulation, what the hell happened? Well, What happened was the fact that there was a fumble on a drop pitch. That's Isaac's fault. And then
Yeah.
there was the pick six from hell, right? Like the pick
Yeah.
six where your quarterback is literally falling to the ground trying to be Patrick Mahomes.
Probably the worst play, one of the worst plays he's made in his entire football career.
Yeah, easily. I mean, so when all of that is working against you and you still have an opportunity to win this football game, it tells you, to me, what it says to me is that Louisville, I think, is a better team than Virginia. They just didn't play like it on Saturday. And that's the frustrating part because there's going to be other teams on the schedule that I'm not sure Louisville's better than. Louisville's not better than Miami. That's the next team.
No.
And so you have to play your A-plus game when you're playing against teams like that. But I'm not so sure that Louisville can play an A-plus game right now. I don't know because I haven't seen it yet. I have not seen it.
You know, you put together like the second half of the Pittsburgh game, and then I think for a good majority of the game yesterday, like I think that's what this Louisville team is. But on a game-by-game basis, we just haven't really gotten a good picture of, oh, this is what this team is.
Mm-hmm.
And we're 5 games into the year.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's the glaring thing for me at this point. And I personally, I blame the schedule. I think that the way, and obviously Indiana backing out and Ole Miss and the Tennessee thing, like that stuff's out of their control.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I get it. But when you play, no disrespect to James Madison and Eastern Kentucky and Bowling Green, but you play those 3 games in 4 weeks, right? You have a bye week in there too. It's just, are you really finding out who you are as a team and as an offense when you have a transfer quarterback coming in who has to basically light the world on fire in order for you to be successful in conference play? And that it's out of their control, right? And this is where we're at this point in the season, 4-1 and heading into the bye week with plenty of opportunities left ahead. But right now, I think there's more questions than answers when it comes to Miller and this offense.
Well, the thing is with those games, the signs of a game like this happening were always there, right? Like Miller turned the ball over twice in that EKU game. He had the pick six, even though they had to come back in that Pittsburgh game. Like these turnovers have been there. This offensive line has been shaky. And you don't expect them to just automatically perform better against better competition. It's like, you're giving up sacks to EKU and Bowling Green and James Madison. Like, you can't block James Madison. Like, no disrespect to James Madison, but they aren't Virginia, right? Like, they aren't Virginia. Yeah. They aren't SMU. They aren't Clemson. They aren't Miami. And whatever you think about these teams, these are the teams Louisville still has to play, and they haven't put together a complete game for all 4 quarters. And so that's the scary thing. And it's like you see the glimpses of what this team can be when they're firing on all cylinders. Problem is they haven't done that yet, and I'm not sure if they can. If this offensive line doesn't get better, William, I don't know if they can be fire on all cylinders because I think the defense is solid. But as long as that O-line can't open up holes for Isaac, for Duke, and protect Miller, he's going to continue to be jittery, and then therefore is going to continue to lead to turnovers because naturally he wants to throw a turn. I hate to say it like this, but naturally Miller Moss likes to turn the ball over, just naturally. And if you're not blocking for him, it makes it that much easier. But when he's being protected, he can contain that turnover bug that wants to come out of him and really make some nice plays.
Yeah, obviously, like the 2 turnovers yesterday. I mean, it's rare that you turn the ball over twice and it immediately results in 14 points, right, for the other team. And I think anybody who watched the game yesterday would agree that Louisville, besides those 2 plays, really outplayed Virginia and is the better team. But that's not football, right? You make one costly mistake and it comes back to bite you in the butt. But you mentioned the offensive line, and that is certainly going to be a big talking point and on a lot of people's minds this week and into the Miami game over the course of the bye week. And quite frankly, it's been a talking point for me, for the first month. This was the unit that worried me the most coming out of camp and into the season. It was the unit that I had the most question marks about, maybe besides like the secondary, right? But especially on the offensive side of the football. And to be quite blunt, like they just have not played well. And I have a few numbers that I'm going to throw out there in terms of Louisville's rushing offense. But Miller Moss was also sacked 5 times yesterday.
Yeah.
And he has shown that under pressure, he struggles. He makes erratic decisions. I think Jeff even said, after the game, that they've got to get him comfortable stepping up, finding the check down, and living to see another day, right? Not trying to make the home run play or not taking a big sack in a big moment. But, you can't put it all on Miller. And I think, the line in particular has struggled. Rushing the football. Okay, listen to this. Coming into the year, I mean, this rushing attack for Louisville is supposed to be one of the best in the nation, the best of the ACC. But I think, talent-wise, it theoretically still should be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the injuries have hampered that with Isaac and Duke and Kewan now. But against Pittsburgh, in the two ACC games, Louisville has ran the football for under 60 yards in both. Against Pitt, they ran the ball 34 times for 1.6 yards a pop. Against Virginia, it was 27 carries, 54 yards, 2 yards a pop. It's not going to get it done, man. And it's not. And you can't put all the blame on the running backs. I think it goes both ways. The line.
Some of that too, because of college. Sack numbers play into that too.
Exactly.
So,
yes.
So sack negates a lot of those rushing yards because Isaac actually averaged 5 yards carry.
Yeah,
Isaac averaged, but because to your point of those sacks, it's like null and void. It's like it never happened.
Right. And so on the season, Louisville is running the football at 3.8 yards a carry. That is 12th in the ACC. Last year, 5.7 yards a carry, first in the ACC. And to me, when you look at the offense, I think that's the biggest glaring difference. I don't think it's a matter of, Tyler Shuck was just some, incredible one-man wrecking crew quarterback who just carried the offense last season. That wasn't the case at all. Mm-hmm. He played really well. He had a great season. I love Tyler. But when you can't run the football and you don't have complementary offense, it just puts so much on the quarterback. And this is back-to-back weeks where Moss has had to throw the football over 48 times.
Yeah.
And that's a guy who you said is turnover prone. He makes mistakes under pressure. And that's what's happened, right? Because he's had the opportunity to do so. So the rushing offense has...
And you're playing from behind. That also tells you that you're playing from behind. Like you have to throw it like that. Pittsburgh game, you're down 17-0. Virginia game, you're down. Like you're playing from behind constantly. So it puts even more pressure on your quarterback who isn't comfortable because of the line, to your point.
So biggest question for you, where do they go? I mean, in the bye week, obviously getting healthy is going to be a big thing.
That's number one.
I don't think from the eyes perspective, I don't think that Isaac has that same burst that he did early on in the season.
Yeah. The injury is definitely affecting his play. Yes. 100%.
And Duke, obviously, I don't know what's good. This is the third week in a row where he exited with an injury. He came back against Pitt, but didn't yesterday. Where do they go from here in the run game?
William, the thing is, I really don't know because their next opponent may have the best defensive line in the conference in Miami. I mean, Ruben Bain is wrecking games right now. Osmondor on the opposite side of him is just
last night. They were unbelievable.
I mean, they're all in Castellanos, and he's a lot more mobile than Miller Moss, right? Like, so, and the sad thing about it is they're on a bye week too. So it's not like you get to get them coming off that, hard fought game against Florida State. No, they get to rest up and you're traveling to Hard Rock to go play against them, man. The thing is I don't know because this, to me, the offensive line play specifically, people have been mad at me because in the past, I've always said, if you live by the portal, you're going to die by the portal. Like it's not always going to be on the up and up. I never expected Louisville to have a year like what Florida State had last year, where they just chose wrong on everybody. But when you choose the portal year in and year out, and not everybody uses the portal. Let me not make it seem like Louisville's the only team using the portal. But when you're constantly getting 30 to 35 new players each and every single year via the portal and not like via high school recruiting, and then not really retaining your guys like your Austin Collins, the guys with multiple years left. You're mostly just getting 1 year rental type of guys. When you had an Austin Monroe Mills, who had another year, more eligibility, who was on that Virginia line, doing his thing for Chandler Morris and those guys. Like those guys move on when you had them in house. Like, once again, I'm not against you having a portal. I like portal guys who have multiple years and being able to contain and retain those guys specifically out of all the places on the offensive line, because on the offensive line is where you need the most continuity, where guys have to, you rely on that guy more than any other player relies on any other all over the field. The center has to be in tune with the guards, who have to then be in tune with the tackles, who then can protect the quarterback and open up lanes for your dynamic running backs. And that's not happening right now. I think this is a combination of portal misses and high school misses. Like, not everybody on that O-line, starting O-line, is from the portal. Some of these guys they recruited out of high school, and they're misses too. Like, so they've missed heavily on the O-line, and they miss the guys who got away, like the Monroe Millses and the Austin Collinses that decided to move on after last season, and a team, to your point, that averaged 5 yards a carry and had a guy go number 40 overall in the NFL draft at quarterback.
There you go. I mean, right. So I agree. I think it's a combination of they lost some guys they couldn't afford to lose, and the guys that are coming in haven't necessarily lived up to what they hoped. And yesterday, I mean, all season long they've been trying different things, but yesterday in particular. So Jordan Church got a start, one of the starts at guard. They moved Rasheed Miller over to tackle. Then in the second half, I mean, clearly the line, it wasn't going well with that group. Then in the second half, they moved Trevonte Sylvester into left tackle. And then it seemed like that started to open up some things with the rushing offense. They had that fake flea flicker. I think that was like literally the first play that Sylvester played yesterday. And I love Trevonte Sylvester. I think he's a great tackle, but he's coming off an injury.
He is.
Look at him. He's lost weight.
He's light. He's light.
He's athletic, right? And that's what you need on the tackle, at tackle. And I think that's something that this offense has been lacking. But again, that's just not the kind of like bruising offensive line that you need to run the football in Power 4, ACC conference play. That just, I think, they can try to find some things in combinations that work with this group. And I trust Richard Owens. I mean, with the job that he did last year with the offensive line, I mean, remember how banged up they were and how many injuries they had, and they were able to patchwork it together. And eventually they really had a solid group up there.
They had dominant performances against Clemson and other teams. Absolutely.
Yeah, that Kentucky game, even at Stanford, that game they lost, they looked great. So I think it's a combination, and I think that they're going to really have to search for some answers up front in this bye week, and they're going to have to find a combination that works for them at Miami, because like you said, this Miami defensive line, it's not only the best in the ACC, but it's probably the best in the country. And
right up there. Right, I think them, Ohio State. I think Ohio State may have one up them, but it's right up there. Absolutely.
And if you can't run the football at Miami on a Friday night, it's going to be a long day.
I mean, you just letting Bain just tee off, right? Like you just letting Ruben Bain just tee off. I mean, right now, a lot of projections have him going number 1 overall. Like the number 1 overall pick in the 26th draft. Now, man, it's like I think there's going to be a lot of soul searching this week. I mean, Jeff Brom came into the post game after the Virginia, and that's about as mad as I've ever seen him in the post game. And I've been to pretty much at least every home game that he's had, or most home games that he's had since he's been the head coach at Louisville. And he's pretty ticked off because he also understands too that because college football is so wacky this year, Louisville's still in it. And you would be in the catbird seat if you going to Miami this week, if you win that game. And you had even after the pick six and the fumble, you had every opportunity to win that game in overtime. And in your one possession, an offense, you can't execute. Like you just can't. You missed the throw to Chris Bell, which I thought wasn't a bad throw. It just didn't work out. And then you put the call in the ref's hands on this play to Isaac Brown. Miller
And I have a point on that, right? Okay, so all right. Louisville gets the football first in overtime. They have the football inside the 10, third and short. They don't feel confident enough that they can run the football up the middle. So they do play action. It's a boot. Miller rolls out to his left. And then, I mean, that's a tough play. To ask a running back to make a contested catch like that on the run, it's just, and I get it. Isaac's a great player, and he should make that play at the end of the day. But it's a really tough play. You're making it harder on yourself. And then Virginia gets the football inside the 10, third and short. They just run the football right up the middle, and they win the game.
Untouched.
So with a backup quarterback in.
I don't even think he was so untouched. I don't even think the crowd knew that the game was over. Like, I'm on the field right behind him. I know for a fact the camera guys that I was next to didn't realize the game was over because, you had the big long delay because Morris had got hurt. Yeah. So, like, it kind of took the wind out of the building anyway. Like, that third and goal wasn't as amped up as you expected it to be because you just had this uber long delay because the quarterback put his body on the line and try to win the game right there. And he goes in untouched. Literally goes in untouched. And I, like I said, I can't fault the defense at all because they gave up 10 points in regulation. They held a Virginia offense, which is moving as one of the most high-powered offenses in the country. They held them to 20 to 10 points in regulation. Chandler Morris, their quarterback, under 150 yards passing. The running game had under 70. The lead running back had under 70 yards rushing. And the lead receiver had under 50 yards receiving. And that defense did that for you. And you can't win the game. You can't put on the end zone in overtime. You can't even really give them a chance to catch their breath, hold their own. And I can't blame nothing. As mad as Ron English made me at times last year, he has done an excellent job this year for a unit that was because that's the thing. We came into the season with Louisville, like, as long as Miller Moss doesn't turn the ball over, I have no issues about the offense because Jeff Brom just knows offense. He knows how to do offense. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about that team over there that lost draft picks to the NFL on the defense, and Quincy Riley, Ashton Gelati, that lost a bunch of dudes over the last 2 years, but then replacing essentially everyone, versus the offense not really replacing much outside of the offensive line. Like, all your skill guys are the same. Chris Bell, Colin Lacey. Your running backs are the same. Duke Watson, Isaac Brown. Up front was different. Quarterback was different. But I figured, hey, Brahms figured it out the last 2 years. He's going to figure it out this year. It hasn't been the case, whereas the defense has been the linchpin to this team. It's really holding it together, the reason why the team's 4-1.
And that was going to be something that I wanted to talk about in terms of Ron English and this defense. And just, I just think they've been so impressive. I mean, this Virginia offense came into the game top 5 in the nation in scoring. First in the ACC in score. I think they were like second in rushing yards, second in passing yards, or third in passing yards too. I mean, point being, one of the top offenses in the conference and arguably the nation. And they held them to 237 total yards. And I mean, of course, like, they're not getting the football back because the 2 turnovers that ended in points, but still, I mean, this defense continues to play really good football, and not just good football in terms of, keeping opponents out of the end zone, but it's clean, right? And that's something that from last year, especially in this secondary, was missing. It just was not a disciplined unit. They got beat deep a lot, penalties up the wazoo. But I think Ron English, with the guys that they brought in, and the defensive line gets a ton of talk, and it should. But I think, even losing Stanquan Clark with how this defense has looked the past 2 weeks, I think Ron English has done a fantastic job. And to be quite honest, he shut up a lot of people. Yes. He shut up a lot of people.
One thing this team does, to your point, it's like little things. Like, we were actually talking about this in our sports office, is they tackle well. Like, guys might catch the ball, whatever, but they don't really get much yak, right? If guys break past the defensive line, when that first linebacker, whether it's TJ, Capers, before Stanquan, Antonio Watts, whoever, these guys tackle really, really well. It's not a bunch of broken tackles, a bunch of broken plays. It's not a bunch of dudes, to your point, like last season, a bunch of dudes running wide open like they were at times last year. All of that has been cleaned up. And kudos to Ron English for making that happen. But at the same time, it's unfortunate because that is the unit that people were nervous of, and they've actually brought not only have they been better, they've been impressive. Like, they've been, like, really impressive.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just like, if we can get
statistically, they're one of the best in the ACC right now. I mean, without a question, statistically.
Yeah. So and they've been impressive, and so really, I'm going off the 2 Power 5 games that they had. Right, Pittsburgh. You shake it a little bit in the first half, but there also was a pick 6. In the second half, you left them scoreless. You shut them out. like I said, in the Virginia game, you literally only gave up 10 points in regulation. You gave up 10 points in regulation. Antonio Watts, I think, has made himself a bona fide stud NFL player. I think Antonio Watts is.
He's been
I don't
great.
know what round he's going to get drafted. Antonio Watts is going to get drafted. I think he has solidified that. And all of that being said, that's all due to thanks to Ron English and his guys, making that happen, coordinating, scheming these things allowing these guys to make plays, especially across, to your point, that defensive line, Cleve Lubin, Wes Bailey, and these different guys making plays on the D line. You have to find a unit on the offensive line that works best together, because this is going to be a lot of soul searching this week. What 5 guys on the O-line, center, guard, tackle, is the best 5? Who are my best 5 linemen that I can put out there and make my quarterback the most comfortable? And then from there, what in my game plan can I do to assure that Miller Moss is most comfortable as possible, as much as possible, going against a Miami team that when you go there at Hard Rock, I think they're going to be number 2 in the freaking nation. It's going to be the number 2 team in the country, playing in front of a Miami crowd that has been waiting for them to be this type of good. Because that's the thing. Even last year's Miami team wasn't this good. Like last year's Miami team, I think was more explosive on offense, but they couldn't.
The defense, they couldn't stop a nosebleed.
It was awful. It was awful. They couldn't fight themselves in a wet paper bag. They were awful. They had the number 1 overall pick and lost 2 games. This year, that's not the case. Carson Beck is playing his tail off. Well, it's the redemption season for Carson Beck. He's laughing at those guys down in Georgia. He's having a redemption season, and their defense is on another world. Ruben Bain is healthy. Other guys are healthy. They're flying all over the football, and they're making plays, man. And this is not the type of team that you can kind of get right on. I'm hoping that you find the bye week to get right, so you can try to get a massive upset on Friday night, October 17th.
And in terms of the ACC, they really have to, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they're sitting 1-1. There are a lot of teams already with 2 or 3 wins in the league. Like that's Virginia's 3rd conference win. Mm-hmm. And you look at their schedule, Jeff. I mean, it's like Cupcake City.
And to your point, Will,
the hardest game is like Cal.
The NC State game for Virginia didn't count as a conference game, did it? It was a non-conference. No. So they lost that game, and it didn't even matter. They still are undefeated in conference play.
And by the way, in that game, NC State had 200 rushing yards.
Don't remind me.
Yeah.
Don't remind me.
Again, I mean, I have 2 quick hitters for you real quick. What does Louisville go if they have last year's offense with this year's defense? What's the record?
11-1. I think they go in regular season 11-1. I think they beat this year's Clemson. I think they beat this year's Virginia. I think the only team they probably lose to is Miami.
Yeah.
I think they're probably I think the only team but I think with this defense, the way that they're playing right now, anything can happen, knock on wood, hopefully no injuries, nothing catastrophic. But right now, the way the defense is playing, I think they go 11-1. Because the things from last year, they've cleaned, they fixed it. Last year, bunch of broken plays, so many guys running wide open. Last year, miscommunication, trying to run it, all the mass substitutions. They eliminated all of that. Couldn't use helmet communication. Why the hell we're a Power 4 team, can't use helmet communication? Didn't know how to use the helmet communication. They've eliminated all of that.
Yeah, they moved Ron English down to the sidelines. It's all good now.
And he's pointing at the scoreboard to Jeff. Yeah. He get mad at Jeff. He pointed up at that scoreboard like, we winning this game because of me, right? You need to get your side of the ball together. we got it going over here. Don't worry about what we got going over here. Me, Cleve, Wes, we all on the same page. JoJo, we all on the same page. You need to go get Duke and Isaac and Miller together. And so that's why it's frustrating because the biggest most frustrating part about all of this is that when you think of the ACC year in and year out, you think of the teams that you're going to have to compete with to make it to Charlotte. You think automatically Clemson, Florida State, maybe SMU, Miami, of course. Like those are like the teams, the cluster of teams, Georgia Tech, now that, Brett Key's got that going. Those are like the cluster of teams that you have to worry about. Well, Clemson is a disaster. We've seen that. Miami's got it rolling, but Florida State already has 2 conference losses, right? Like, so everything is right in front of you. But the problem is you just dropped that one to Virginia. And Clemson, albeit they're the disaster, but they're still Clemson, right? Like they're still Clemson. The players over there are still Clemson players. And you still have to play SMU, who, albeit don't look dominant, they still look like they could potentially beat Louisville if Louisville can't protect anybody. Yeah, if Louisville can't protect anybody, they can still beat you if you can't stop anybody from sacking your quarterback. And so those games are still out there. And it's like now when you drop a game that you could have easily won, you have to now fight and claw and hope for some help the rest of the conference when other teams like Georgia Tech is still playing well. Clemson, I mean, albeit they had a get-right game against North Carolina, who was awful, by the way. Like, they had a get-right game against them.
It's actually quite sad, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they are pathetic.
And then, of course, they're probably one of the worst power conference teams.
Yeah, it's bad, man.
Country.
And then, of course, Virginia now sitting in the seat that Louisville could have been sitting in after that win against Louisville on the road, albeit.
Yeah. I have them going 10-2 if they had last year's offense and this year's defense. I think they find a way to lose a game, just like they did yesterday.
Blunder.
Yeah, I think they lose to Miami and then they find a way to lose a game. But that's just a fun hypothetical question. So when it comes down to yesterday, one more quick hitter for you, and then we'll talk about Chris Bell. But what does it come down to for you? I mean, because for me, it's a run game, right? I mean, in Virginia's only loss, they gave up 200 on the ground to UVA. Louisville, 54, 2 yards a carry. It's not going to get it done. The sack yardage, yeah, you factor that in, but they've got to figure something out on the ground. What does it come down to for why they lost yesterday?
Yeah, I think to me, it's the run game has a lot to do with it, but I'm this loss to me goes on the offensive line, the quarterback. Like the offensive line, quarterback, head coach. I think all three of those guys are like all three of those positions are like tied to this, because if those three are all working in unison together on the same page, you're able to run the ball because your offensive line is creating holes. And if your offensive line is creating holes, you're able to run the ball. Your quarterback feels more comfortable. Then if your quarterback feels more comfortable, your play caller, which is our head coach, Jeff Brom, is able to then dial it up, get more creative, take more chances. But he's not going to take chances if his guys turn the ball over. He's not going to take more chances if guys can't block, if protection can't hold up, because Brom historically likes those long, elaborate, deep down the field plays. But that you got to block, you got to hold up for those. Yes, you got to hold up for those. And he hasn't been able to really scheme any of those up for Colin. And that's another thing. Colin hasn't been getting the ball because they want to get him the ball in space and down the field. Right? Colin is smaller. It's hard if guys are going to play press man coverage and be in zones for him to really get open, right? Like at times, if you're not scheming him open, and if your quarterback's feeling uneasy. Whereas Chris Bell, hey, just throw him the ball. He's 6'2", 215, 225, or whatever he is. He can make a play. That's why he had 12 catches yesterday. But Colin, it takes a little more time, and you need your offensive line to hold up if you're not just going to be throwing bubble screens all day, which is not historically what Brom wants to do anyway.
I mean, I think they had they had one deep shot, and I think it was Skinner, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And speaking of, like, I think they got to find a way to get these tight ends involved.
I like Skinner too, man. I think he can play.
I think Skinner, 4 catches, 35 yards, 12 after the catch for him yesterday. He had the touchdown against Pitt. I really think he should be a bigger part of this offense over the middle of the field, drag routes, things where you're getting him on the move. They want
to, though, Will. I think they want to. They just can't block anybody right now. They can't block anybody, and their quarterback isn't seeing the field the way they want them to.
Yeah.
To your point, they had that's the other frustrating part. It's like, yo, they have the guys. Like, it's not now. I don't know if they have the guys on the O-line. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if they have the guys. It doesn't look like they do. But at the skill positions, they have the guys. Like, these running backs didn't just. The Monstars didn't just come and take Isaac Brown's superpowers, right? Like, he didn't forget how to run the football. Same with Duke Watson. Now, they have to get healthy, but at the same time, like, something has to change up front, whether it's scheme, personnel, whatever. Something has to change, or this could spiral out of control. Like, that's the sad part about this, because when you're turning the ball over, you can lose to anybody. Like, that's the thing about turnovers. Like, you can lose. Now, I'm not saying Virginia's just this inferior opponent compared to Louisville. But I do think pound for pound, talent for talent, Louisville has more talent than Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, they outplayed them too, right? Like, you gain 150 more yards than your opponent, and you're at home, and you don't win. It's just it's really, like, that is hard to fathom. And obviously, when you watch the game, you realize why they lost. But from a statistical perspective, it's just hard to wrap your head around it. And I think that's what the coaching staff is today and tomorrow, where they're looking over the film and stuff. That's going to be the biggest thing, is how in the world did we give them this game? And I think at the end of the season, this game's going to be the one that people circle, and it's going to be the one that people are like, man, we gave that to them.
And to add to it, I remember you said at the beginning of the show, there's no way like they'll bench Miller, and I don't think that
No.
either. I don't.
He's quarterback one. They're not
Yeah.
paying him that
Mm-mm.
much money for him
Yeah.
to be benched midway through the year. And to be quite honest, I don't think he's played poor enough for him to be benched for what we've seen from Brady Allen and Deuce Adams.
But and that's the key. The key is, who do you go to? And I don't think there's anyone like, as much as people feel like, which it shows in his play calling, that Jeff may be hesitant and how he feels about Miller and like the way he's seeing the field right now and all these things. Like he may be hesitant, conservative in his play calling because he doesn't feel like Miller's seeing the field all that well. And he may be, like, rightfully so. I think he kind of is. At the same time, they have no replacement. Like Brady Allen isn't the answer. Like
we
Allen,
haven't seen enough from them.
Yeah, Deuce, and from what we've seen in the spring, they at least, once again, it's just spring ball. You know, it's just spring ball. Doesn't mean everything. But what we saw in the spring, those guys aren't better than Miller Moss. Those guys aren't ready to go. Like, those guys aren't going to drastically change your football team. And that, to me, also stinks. Like, that also falls on at the feet of the head coach to say, like, for fans, even if no matter how bad it gets with Miller Moss, I don't think they replace him because I don't know if they have a guy that they feel comfortable enough replacing him with. That's the other part to it.
Yeah, I mean, again, you also don't get a quarterback out of the portal for that much money and don't play him and bench him halfway through the year. That it's just not going to happen. But speaking of Moss, and then we'll hit this and then we'll call it. But man, Chris Bell. I mean, this dude is playing his way into a lot of money. And I'm not talking about NIL money. I'm talking about big boy money. I'm talking about NFL money. 12 catches, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns, 14 targets. I mean, Virginia couldn't cover him. They didn't have a matchup for him that they liked, and I think Louisville exploited it. But, I mean, I don't think this guy has been talked about enough from the Louisville media and even just people in the ACC about how much this guy's improved over the course of just from last year to this year. And yeah, sure, Ja'Cory Brooks getting a lot of the targets at the catches last year from Shuck, but Bell, I mean, he still had over 700 yards, right, and 40 plus catches. I mean, he's well on his way to having a better season than Brooks had last year. And Brooks was second in the ACC in receiving yards at the end of the season. I with Chris Bell, I think you gotta live and die by him a little bit. He'll kill you. Yeah, he'll kill you here and there, right? The penalties, the Kyron Lacey tribute or whatever. I think people said online.
Is that what Rutherford said? That was funny. That was funny. I mean, that was funny.
But it's stuff like that where it's like, come on, man. But they'll drop 12 catches, 170 yards, 2 tutties for you. I can't say enough about how much this guy has impressed me through the first month of the year. And he's only getting better. When you have a 6'2", 225-pound wide receiver who runs, a 4.3, 4.4, it's just you're golden offensively in the passing game. No matter really who the quarterback is, because Chris Bell just finds a way to get open. And I really like the stuff, outside the numbers, comeback routes, being physical, making the corner body him up and make a play. And I think that's how that's going to be the key for this Louisville offense going forward, the connection between Moss and Bell.
Chris Bell reminds me a lot of A.J. Brown. Like he just looks like A.J. Brown to me. During the spring, I was out at the practices, one of those practices. It might have been pro day, actually. I think it was actually pro. It was Tyler Shook's pro day. I remember this. And I remember Deion Branch had just got promoted to wide receiver coach. We were talking to him like the grass coach about getting the promotion, whatever. It's like, how's your unit looking, right? Like they were in spring balls, pro day. He said, our unit's looking great. Still things to work on. He said, Chris Bell. It's like, remember the name this fall. He said, if Chris Bell does what I want him to do, he'll be one of the first 32 guys called in the 26th draft. He said, this is a first-round wide receiver that I'm working with. It's just all here. He said, as long as he gets it here, and he meant mental, like the mental mistakes, the penalties, right? Not letting your emotions overcome you. Once Chris Bell gets his emotions intact, there's not too many corners that can cover him. I do think I don't know if he's going to be a first-round wide receiver, but he is one of the most talented wide receivers in the country. He is that good. And like you said, at 6'2", 225, running the way he's able to run, catching the ball he's able to catch, being strong, physical, really, like I said, playing like A.J. Brown of the Eagles, who's an all-pro and trying to build a Hall of Fame career. Like, this dude is like that. He is talented. As long as he's got his mental together, I think he's one of, if not the best wide receiver in the conference. And he continues to show it, display it week in and week out. Like you said, Virginia had no answers for him. 12 catches, 100 some odd yards, 2 tutties. Like, this dude is a dude. As long as he eliminates the mental mistakes, the sky's the limit for that guy. And Deion Branch says he could be a first-round pick. I'm not betting against a guy who won a Super Bowl MVP.
I have a feeling that a lot of people, maybe a few years from now, I don't know how long, but they might look back at last year's team and kind of be like, man, like, all these guys, you're putting up numbers in the NFL, Isaac Brown, Duke Watson, Chuck or whatever, Chris Bell, tight ends, see what happens.
Then even on the defense, Ashton Gelati, Quincy Riley. Like,
I think a lot of people are going to be looking back on that team and being like, man, I know they won 9 games, but this should have been an ACC title contending team. And I think that's just a thought that I've had, because Chris Bell has been really good. And sure, he's improved from last year. I think especially, some drops plagued him, his first few seasons in college, and especially like fighting through contact at the beginning of the routes and contested catches and stuff like that. But you saw that one hand grab he had yesterday. I mean, this guy he's playing out of his mind right now, and Louisville's got to find a way to get him the ball in the future. That's going to be the key for the offense.
Yeah, no, Chris Bell is a guy that it was so funny, because in the post game, someone asked, like, hey, do you feel like you guys need a better running game to set up the pass and do things, that way you can get open? And naturally you would think he'd be like, yeah, we need. He said, nah, as a receiver, you want the ball. It's like as a receiver, you want the ball. So let the pass set up the run is basically what he's kind of getting at. Like, he's like, throw me the ball and then we'll figure out the running game eventually. But as long as I keep getting the ball, I think it will be all right.
In modern day football, I think you also kind of part of you kind of has to live with your receiver being a little bit.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what I don't want to say a diva, but I think that's the word that gets thrown out there for receivers often. But I don't know if it's the right way to describe Chris Bell, but certainly plays with a chip on his shoulder, and he knows he's the best out there every single time he's on the field, that nobody can cover him, and that's kind of what you want out of your receiver, right?
Oh yeah, no, man. Like you said, man, the whole diva thing for wide receivers comes from dogs, right? It comes from guys that can make plays, and because they're dependent on everybody doing their job right, and someone delivering them the ball, yeah, they can get a little, whatever. They're out on an island. The line has to hold up for the quarterback. The quarterback has to see them and then deliver an accurate pass. So yeah, there's probably a lot of diva tendencies in there with every wide receiver. But I like my wide receiver saying, like, get the ball with me, and I think we'll be okay. Like, make sure I get the ball, or if I get the ball, I think I can help us win. And he sure enough can. He did everything in his power to help Louisville win that game. Unfortunately, it just came up short, but he is a dog, and he is making a case for his wide receiver coach to correctly predict a year in advance him potentially being a first-round pick.
I mean, at this rate, it's looking like he's at least going to be taken in the first couple days of the draft. So, Chris Bell just continues to impress. That's all I've got. Jeff, thanks for joining me, man. You got anything else you wanted to add?
No, man. I appreciate you, man. I hope we are able to make this a weekly thing.
Yeah,
and, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, just fun, and hopefully next Sunday or after the Miami game, we'll be back and talking some Louisville football, especially hoping to get this going once the basketball season comes upon us, and that's going to be very exciting as well. But that's all we've got. I did forget to do a break. I'll just do it afterwards. And thanks if you hung out with us live. I appreciate it. I know there's a few things that I'm trying to figure out with this, because this is the first one that we're doing, but going to be a weekly thing, and I'm excited. This was fun. So thanks for hanging out, and be sure to check everything out on the site at 804 Derm on Twitter. Jeff Lightsy, you see his Twitter